Hey, friends, I'm Thea Charles, and you are listening to the Push or Pivot podcast. In this series, we discuss the path someone chooses when they are at a crossroads of their life. Do they push through the adversity, or do they stop, reassess, and pivot? This episode, we are talking to Safiya Robinson, who is an author, storyteller, and story listener. Hey, Safiya! I'm very
Hey.
excited to talk with you, as always.
Yeah.
Safiya and I met through Inner Glow Circle, as
Mm.
some other people I've met through there. But we just have like a great connection, I think. I
Yeah.
love talking
The
with you.
it's the Barbadian connection,
Yes,
I
there's a
think.
Barbadian
Yeah.
connection. And she'll post pictures, and I'm like, I know where she is, and I want to be there. And it makes me so
Yes.
excited.
I know. Love
Yeah.
it.
So I'm really happy to introduce you to my podcast audience. And
Yay.
I'd love for you to tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
So I'll probably tell you my favorite things that I like to tell people, which is that I'm an author, I'm a blogger, I'm a storyteller and a story listener, something I made up myself because when you're an author, you can make words up.
That's right.
Part of the job description. Um, I'm an aunt to a very cute little nephew. And yeah, went through IGC's coach training. So some days I'm a coach. Doesn't happen too often, but some days I do it.
I like that. Some days. Yeah. So how long have you been writing? I think it's so cool that you're an author.
How long have I been writing? My sister pointed out to me that I have been writing for as long as I can remember. I always say, I started my blog 2.5 years ago, but I've been writing forever. I've always loved writing from the time I was at school. I loved writing. I've written all sorts of things. I used to write essays and poems and song parodies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, definitely. One of these days, not on the podcast, I'll sing one of them for you.
Yes,
but
please.
all types of stuff. And then I was a student, so I did a lot of academic writing. And then I started writing for travel. And that's probably when I really started. My best friend and I would travel, we'd go to places, and I really quickly realized that I was never going to remember everything I saw. So I started sending out these email updates, and they were just these epic emails to everybody, telling them about the trip and where we went and what we did. And that was probably when I realized that I enjoyed writing nonfiction.
Wow.
Because up until that point, I was absolutely convinced I was going to write these big, epic fiction novels. And doing that travel writing made me realize, I actually like writing nonfiction. So that was probably when it really started.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's really neat. I really like that. I mean, I used to send out postcards, but that's nothing in comparison.
No. I used to create these newsletters, and
oh, wow.
I just enjoyed it so much. I suppose it was the amateur's version of a travel blog, but it was just I just loved it. Really enjoyed it.
Amazing. So did that kind of open you up to wanting to become an author?
I kind of wanted to become an author before that. From the time I was a child, I was I want to write a book. I remember asking my English teacher when I was about 14 or so, if I wrote a book, would you help me get it published? And he was like, sure, no problem. And I'm pretty sure he still would know. But yeah, even then I thought that I was going to write a book, although it's I really, what I've ended up writing and what I thought I was going to write are pretty far apart, but that's okay. That's fine.
Cool. That's cool. So what was the process like when you wanted to start doing books?
What was the process like? So for a long time, I knew I wanted to write a book. I would have said to you, I didn't know what I wanted to write a book about. And also, I didn't really know where to start. And I tried a lot of things. I took a course about
Okay.
writing a book.
Uh-huh.
I read books about writing books, and I went online and did some research, and I looked around quite a lot, but nothing really stuck enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I just didn't start. I was waiting around to have this big juicy idea,
Mm-hmm.
just waiting for it to drop in my lap. It never came. Um, and I just felt like I felt like it was a big thing I wanted to do, but I wasn't actually sure how I would achieve it.
How to do it. So how did you get to that point?
I started blogging actually.
Okay.
That was what I think was a turning point. For ages I'd wanted to start a blog,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm the sort of person that has a million ideas. So, I wanted to start it about this, start it about that, start it about the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then as I was about to turn 40,
Mm-hmm.
and that was I guess that was a hard transition for me turning 40, because my mom passed away when she was 39, and
Oh.
I always had this fear that I was not going to turn 40. Like, I don't know why, but I just had this fear in my mind, like, I'm not going to turn 40. So
Uh-huh.
as I was coming up to that birthday, I thought to myself, I'm going to write about the lessons that I learned before I turned 40, the 39 lessons I learned before I turned 40. Because it
Oh.
almost felt like it was going to be a full stop or some
Uh-huh.
sort of, transition.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so I decided to start that blog. So I
Okay.
did.
Awesome.
Started a blog
Uh-huh.
about 39 lessons I learned before I turned 40. I've written over 200 posts. So clearly
Lots of lessons.
I surpassed 39 a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But after completing that project, completing that big, like,
Yeah.
40 lessons before I turned 40, and actually turning 40, like waking up on
Mm-hmm.
that day and realizing, like, I'm still here,
Oh my God.
like, those were the things I think that gave me the kind of courage to be like, yeah, you can write a book, that's fine. And yeah, and so I I then met up with this lady who is also, she's a book coach.
Okay.
And I said to her, I really want to write a book, but I don't know what it's going to be about. And she's
Mm-hmm.
like, of course you do. Of course you know what it's going to be about. If you want to write a book, you already know what it's going to be about.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, that doesn't sound real, but sure.
Mm-hmm.
And she told me she had this foolproof technique that
Yep.
would allow me to know what book I wanted to write. And
Okay.
she, I said, okay, I'll try it, because
Uh-huh.
I'll try anything. And I tried it, and it worked. It was a guided meditation that she did, and it's just designed to bring that idea from the back of your mind to the front of your mind. And at that time, I would have been like, meditation, that's crazy, that's hokey.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, it worked.
Oh,
So yeah, it was the most random thing ever. So I went through that process. I knew what I wanted to write my book about, and that was it. I started writing.
wow. So what was it about?
What, the book?
Yeah.
Sure. So the book. So that's also a funny story. I hope that your podcast is okay for random funny stories. But
Yes. I like funny stories.
yeah. So a few years ago, I made this decision that I was going to do a TED talk.
Okay.
I was like, I'm going to do a TED talk. Now, I'm actually terrified of public speaking, so I'm not really sure what was going through my mind,
Mm-hmm.
but I was all about that TED talk. In fact, one day I sat down at home,
Mm-hmm.
got out my laptop, and I started writing this TED talk. And the TED talk was called Everything is a Thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I start writing it. I get like a paragraph and a half in, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I've run out of words now.
Mm-hmm.
So filed it away, put it in the computer, never looked
Mm-hmm.
back at it. When I did that meditation to see what the book was going to be about,
Mm-hmm.
that was what came to my mind. That the book is going to be about everything is a thing. And
Mm-hmm.
that TED talk that I
Yes.
could not even write a paragraph and a half on, I wrote an entire book on that
That's
topic.
incredible.
And
Incredible.
yeah, and it was just about my own personal journey of just finding my values and
Mhm.
living more from that place rather than a place of other people's expectations. Because when I was coming up to 40, that was something that me and all of my friends felt like we weren't where we thought we were going to be in life. And I started asking, like, whose ideas are these anyway? Like, we have all these ideas about where we should be in life, but where do they come from? Are they our ideas? Do we even want to be in those places?
Yeah.
Like, how can I find a way to feel good about, you know, life? And for me, it was finding my values and being more open about them. And that's what the book is about.
And it's an awesome book. It's really good. I've read a lot of it, and it's so good. And I can, just you saying that, I can really relate, because I'm coming up on 40s, like I'm knocking on 40s. And those are the exact same things that we talk about. Like, is this really what it was supposed to be like in the 30s?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like that. And whose idea was it anyway? You know,
whose idea was it anyway?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the type of person that likes to have my own ideas. So this worked perfectly for me.
Perfect. So I guess, would you say that in creating this book that it was something that you just pushed through?
Yes and no. So, or I should say no and yes.
Okay.
So writing the book, what happened eventually, from after blogging for a long time, I realized that I didn't like a lot of the advice that was out there about how to write and how to write a book and all that stuff. And I decided to kind of do it my own way. And once I kind of opened myself up to doing that and not necessarily having it all planned out and having a after the book plan and who's your ICA and all the stuff that they tell you must know before you even write a word, like, I'm not doing that. I kind of found it so much easier to write. So that part I didn't have to push through at all. Like, writing it to me was just, it was enjoyable.
Yeah.
Writing it and having it edited was really enjoyable. Publishing it, I had to push. I had to push because there were, like, I really, really wanted a physical book. Like, that was something, you know, there were a lot of people who were like, I just did an ebook and I threw it up on Amazon and, like, that's what you should do. And I was like, like, I want this book in my hand.
Yeah.
And I wasn't aware of how much it required to do that, like little decisions that I had to make that I literally was not interested in, and I had to just push through those things in order to get the physical book laid out and uploaded and printed. And I did print on demand with Amazon, and I'm in Barbados, so I added an extra layer of things that nobody knew anything about, like people, you know, just figuring out as I went along. So one thing I learned was that if I wanted a physical book and I wanted it to come to Barbados, I'd have to publish it like months before I launched it so that I could order the copies and have them arrive. And like, nobody could give me that advice because most people who did it were either in the US or they were in the UK. And so a lot of it was just me pushing through. And what probably made that easiest was not actually, like, I refused to know the full process. Like, I was like, let me just do it one step at a time and just know one step at a time. I don't want to know all the steps to the end, because if I did, I don't think I would have finished.
Right. It could have felt like, sounds like it would have felt daunting.
It would have, and I would have just been sitting there thinking about all the other things I had to do, and not actually doing anything, whereas I just did it one step at a time. And so it was hard, but in hindsight, I think that was probably the best way to do it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a push, but I got my book, so.
You did.
Yeah.
You did. So you said it was kind of a no and a yes?
A no and a yes. The writing process, and that was something I learned, like, because I love writing, I enjoyed that. So when everybody talks about how it's so hard to write a book, I was like, really? I didn't think it was that hard, but I just loved writing it.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
It's
So
nice to
that
like
part was,
see the joy in your face just talking about
yeah.
it right now.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I love writing. That's probably, it's not probably, it's why I still do it, because publishing was no fun. So I still do it because I enjoy it.
Because you enjoy it. I know for me, it was really exciting to get the book in the mail. Because I was like, I
Yeah.
know her. Ah.
So exciting. Like,
It was so exciting. So
trust me,
exciting.
sometimes I look at it and I'm like, I know her. It's my book. So I know what you mean. It's
Yes,
fine.
yes. So true.
Yeah.
Um, if you could give somebody one piece of advice, what would
Mhm.
it be?
About writing or
Or
in life?
anything.
Oh, they're two different pieces of advice. So if I could give, I'm going to do both because
Okay,
I,
do
I
it.
don't follow, by the way, I don't follow rules. I'm
Yeah, yeah.
sorry if that's a problem for you, but like, I
No,
just
it's not.
don't. So if I could give anybody one piece of advice about writing, it would be to just keep moving forward. Do not edit as you're writing. Don't go back. Don't, like I think you almost have a lot of people I know say that they have this real issue with editing as they go.
Hmm.
And I don't believe you can do it. Like, but also you can't know what it's going to be until it's finished. So as I was writing, there were things that I wrote, and if I'd gone back, I would have realized like, yeah, that doesn't belong there. And I
Hmm.
could have deleted it. But the truth is it just belongs somewhere else in the book.
Hmm.
So my advice to writers is never go back, never delete anything. Keep everything,
Hmm.
write forward, edit afterwards, and you will be surprised at how it looks in hindsight versus how it looks as you're going along.
That's great advice.
So that would be for writers or people who want to write.
Hmm.
If I was to give a piece of advice in life, it would be that there is just no one way to do anything.
Hmm.
There is just no one way, and you have to find a way that works for you. And if nobody else, just because nobody else wrote a book about it or
Uh-huh.
has it up on Pinterest,
Yep.
doesn't mean anything. If you're doing something and it doesn't feel like it's working for you, it's okay to stop. There's more than one way to do absolutely everything, and you have
Mhm.
to find a way that works for you.
That's awesome. Yep.
Yeah.
You can publish a book through Amazon and be in Barbados.
Yeah,
You can
you
do
can.
anything.
You absolutely can. And that's fine. You can write a book and then send it out to your email list.
Yes, that
A
was
chapter
exciting as
a day.
well. A
I
chapter.
did that too. Yeah,
Yes.
I did that too. And that was so much fun. Like I wrote a novel and it was like, that was amazing for me because even though I didn't end up with a physical book, like
Mhm.
that was always the dream to write a fiction.
Mhm.
And after I wrote it probably a few months after I finished writing the book that I published on Amazon.
Mhm.
And I hadn't even completed the publishing process and I was already tired of it. So I knew that publishing this one was not an option, not in that way.
Mhm.
So it just sat on my computer for ages. And then a few weeks ago, I was like, yeah, I'm sending it out by email. And I was saying to someone today, like I decided that on the Friday, and
Mhm.
a friend of mine created this landing page, and
Uh-huh.
the first chapter went out on the Monday.
It's
Just
amazing. That's so
yeah,
awesome.
send it out by
Oh,
email. There you go, folks. Take it or leave it.
so awesome. I shared that with someone I knew over here, and she's like, "Who's this person? I love this book."
Oh, good.
My
I'm
computer waiting for it.
excellent. Well, I'm working on another one that I think will probably have a similar format
Okay.
because I wrote it, and that was another thing that I did in a way that I didn't think was possible. I love writing letters,
Mm-hmm.
writing emails, and I always wanted to start an advice column. And
Oh.
so I was like, what would I write this book about? I was like, I know it's going to be letters and emails, and I'm going to start an advice column. And that was it. And then so that was it, and that was like the framework of the book. Of course, there was the I also like to ask big questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so the big question I asked from that one is like, I wanted to know about love. So it's called Lessons in Love. And I've got another one that I'm working on now with a really big question. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
You're so cool.
Oh,
You are
I
so
love that.
cool that you could just like, I guess it's like a little dream of mine, I guess, if I'm being honest, like being known for something like that. That's just so, I think it's so awesome that you're able to put your thoughts onto paper and connect with people in that way. I think that's really, really
Mm,
amazing.
well, we're going to find your thing.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to like find out about this meditation.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that a bit more. We'll do
Yeah.
that off the air.
Okay. Okay. If how can someone contact you or find out more about your blog and books?
So my website is www.39andcounting.com, and it's the digits 39 and counting.com. My blog is there. I've just like today, started adding audios to some of them because people, when I sent that novel out, everybody was like, you should do audios. And I was like, but then I thought I'll add them to my blog post. So the most recent set of posts that I did was called 10 Lessons I Learned in the Last Decade.
Okay.
And I wrote it coming right up to the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. And I've started adding audios to those. So if you go onto the website and you click on, the blog, and you find those posts, the first few of them will have audios there, and I'll be adding more as the weeks go on, so that you can read it or listen to it in the car or like however you want.
So cool.
Fun times.
So fun. Oh my goodness, Safiya, this has been a pleasure. And I'm sure everyone took something away from it. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. What did you take away from Safiya's story? What are you trying to figure out? How would it feel to do it your way? Do you have a story to tell about a crossroad in your life? I'd love to hear it. Contact me on Instagram at @pushourpivot or email hello@thearenel.com. That's TheaRenel.com. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe and join me next time on the Push or Pivot podcast.